So the focus of today is to look at the tools that we can use to improve social media marketing efficiency. So I've broken them down into a few different areas of tools because there's such a wide range out there. I'm going to focus in on a few key examples, but I completely understand that the tools that you choose for your business might vary. And if I speak to all of the clients I work with, they'll have a slightly different mix depending on size of business, size of team, how much work they're doing in social media. So I think the key thing from today is to look at the types of tools that will help you do social media marketing more effectively, but realize that actually the exact toolkit that you need will vary depending on your business. So first thing we're going to look at is, why do we need a toolkit? So some of you might already be using tools, some of you might not yet have come across the tools that are out there, but fundamentally the purpose of social media tools is to improve control. So this is about giving you the ability to control what you're doing, to automate what you're doing, and help to reduce some of the manual effort that goes into scaling social media activity. It's also about speed to market. When social media is quite a responsive channel, it requires reaction, it requires ability to execute quickly. It's not something that you can sit and spend months and months planning every single thing. So the ability to react requires the tools and the processes underlying them in order to be able to send out information quickly across multiple networks. Time management is also critical in any size business. Resources at a premium. Therefore, using tools that help to take out time and effort from a process, reducing the manual focus, and actually allowing you to automate more things is really useful. It saves time, it therefore saves costs to the business. And it's also about scalability. If you're doing a task repetitively, there's only so many times you can do that manually to so many people in your social audience before you exhaust the amount of time you've got available. So to really scale up to grow an audience, to be able to automate key tasks such as replying to new followers on Twitter, needs a level of automation. And the final point, I guess, is it's actually quite good fun. So when you're doing social media, if hopefully, like me, you're enthused about the potential it's got for engaging and having proper conversations with people, finding cool tools that help you do things more efficiently, that give you good data and visibility of your activity, is actually quite an enjoyable part of it. Okay, so let's move on to the first set of tools. So measurement tools. I'd imagine that a lot of you probably use Google Analytics. Obviously, it's not the only web analytics tool. There are lots of others out there. But the key thing is to set up campaign tracking and all social media activity. I'm using GA as an example just because most people I work with do have Google Analytics on their site. Google Analytics offers campaign tracking. So this is the ability to set parameters in the URLs that you post out to your social media so that you can track those campaigns specifically within the campaigns report under the acquisition set of reports. The good thing about this is that Google provides a standard URL builder. I put a screenshot in there. Enables you to enter different parameters. So you'd enter medium, which would be social, the source, which would be your social network, whether it's Twitter, Facebook. You can specify the campaign. So if you're doing campaigns as well as ad hoc update, you can put a campaign name in there. You can also drill it down into campaign content and terms. So say, for example, you're doing a campaign around Halloween and you've got different types of posts that you're putting out. You might be putting video posts, image posts, text posts. You might be testing different content. You can track all of those independently. So you can start to look down at a more granular level on exactly what type of activity that you're doing in social media is working. What traffic is each one driving? What are the engagement metrics? What are the conversion metrics? And also you can look at goal completion on your website based on goals you've set up in Google Analytics. So campaign tracking is absolutely essential. The critical thing here is having a clear taxonomy. So if you're going to use campaign tracking, you've got to use it consistently so that you can easily compare different levels of social campaign. For example, if you use the campaign parameter inaccurately, it's very difficult to look at seasonal comparisons. Say, for example, Halloween from one year to the next. You've got to make sure that you're using the campaign UTM parameter each year for putting Halloween in so that you can do that comparison on date ranges. The next bit of measurement tools is going into the actual social networks themselves. The likes of Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, etc. They all have analytics tools available out the box. The toolkit that you get for free is limited, but it is useful. A good example I've put here as a screenshot is on Twitter. So at a free level, before you pay for the premium analytics, you can go in and you can see your most popular tweets. You can see which posts are getting the most engagement. You can see your reach. You could do monthly comparisons. The most important thing is to look at the KPIs that are important to you. That might be actually your social activity velocity, so number of tweets you're putting out versus impressions. So actually, is there a correlation between the amount that you're tweeting and the number of impressions and visibility you're getting? Or is it not? Is it more about the style of content? Therefore, actually, some months you're doing less, but you're getting far more impact. Therefore, you need to look more closely at the type of posts that are really hitting the customers and giving them what they want, and they can further optimize for the next month. So the important thing is to understand what they offer and use the tools that are there. Pull that data out. If you need to extract it into spreadsheets to do running comparisons and charts, you can get much more detailed versions. So, for example, in Twitter, the paid version, you can create custom reports. You can drill down into more data points. I always recommend starting with the free versions, finding out what you can get, and then learning what's missing, and that will give you justification for investing in the paid. Next thing is to set up web analytics dashboards. So if you use Google Analytics, you'll probably be familiar with this. You can set up real-time dashboards, and you can set up channel-specific dashboards. So here are a couple of examples. And actually, if you search on Google for social media Google Analytics dashboards, you'll find a lot of shared links from people who've set up these dashboards themselves for their own businesses and posted the configuration links so that you can copy them quickly into your GA, and it will give you that report set up, which you can then tweak and edit to suit yourself. So you don't have to build it from scratch if you don't want to. You can use what's already been done. The important thing of this is, by having a dashboard, you set in the regular metrics that you want to measure, and you're getting a consistent comparison. You can also use the export function to bring the data out, and you can use the share function to email it. So you could send an email to yourself every week with your dashboard so that you've got your regular social media reporting. It's really important because although this doesn't give you the why are things happening, what it does is it tells you what's happening based on the metrics that are important to your business. And that should therefore be your trigger to say, okay, wow, we've just increased our traffic massively from Facebook and had a lot more goal completion with it. Now let's answer the why. Let's look at what works, what drove that traffic, and what can we learn from it. Okay, so those are measurement tools. And again, as we go through this, I'm not saying this is an exhaustive list. I think that's quite an important point to note. But what I've pulled out are the most popular ones that I've worked with, but also when I work with client teams, the types of tools that they are using regularly and getting value from. So planning tools, these are the tools that help us get all of our ideas together and formulate them ready to execute social media marketing. The first one to look at is content research. Obviously, content is the thing that fuels social media. Without content, you don't have anything to talk about. So the real important part is to try and understand the content that is most relevant to your audience and help to inform your content plans based on this. So there are a few tools out there that help you with this research. I'm not sure if any of you have used or are aware of, there's tools like BuzzSumo and Audience. And again, there's a free version. But to get really to the kind of detailed data, you have to upgrade to the premium versions. So the free is quite a nice hook to get you in and using it. So what can this do? A couple of key things to pull out. And the example I've put here is BuzzSumo. So you can go in and search based on keyword. Now you can search on keyword, or you can search on a person's name or a brand name. You enter that in, and what it will do is it will trawl through all of the content shares that are happening on websites to look at what is the most popular shared content based on this keyword. And this is really, really useful because what you can start to look at is other people's content strategies and also what's resonating with the audience based on this particular topic. So you can see total number of shares. It's really useful because you can also then look at the pages that are getting the most popularity, and then you can go to them and have a look at their editorial style. So what style and content style of content, is really popular? Is it that you have to have video content in order to get engagement around these particular topics, or actually is long form blogs the most popular? So learning from other people and popular content. The next bit is to flip that and look at influencers. So the screenshot I've got here is influencers related to social media marketing, and what this does is it looks at either brands or individuals who have social profiles that have the highest level of followers, engagement metrics, retweets, etc. So this is a really good way of seeing, okay, who's the most popular, and then I can go into their accounts and see what content do they share, how do they talk to people, what language they use, what terms, etc. What are the things that they're doing that are getting the most resonance with the audience? Because one of the good things about the influencer research is you can learn about the content strategy, but you can also identify people who'd be really useful to build proactive relationships with, who you can reach out to and find a value proposition to say, well, actually, if we can work with these people more effectively, we'll get reach out into our audience via them rather than just go and direct ourselves. Yeah, so after we've looked at the content research through tools like BuzzSumo Audience and influencer research, well, the next thing to do is come back and look at our keyword research. So what have we learned from that content? Now let's have a look at what people search for on search engines related to that. So can we tie up, is there a big difference between the language that people use in social versus what they're searching for online? And the good thing about relating this back to online search is, see, content strategy between SEO and social is so completely interlinked. You don't do the two in isolation. The content you produce for SEO can be beneficial to sharing links out to social media and vice versa. But there's also ways of typical traditional keyword research where you can branch out and learn a bit more widely the kind of things people are interested in. So I don't know if anyone's ever used answerthepublic.com, but it's an alternative search engine to Google, Bing, whichever other search engine you use. And what you do is you type in your keyword, and then it will bring up a whole range of different styles of almost like question-based searches that people are using. So more long-tail search. So things like what, why, where, how, preposition-based searches. And what this does is it helps you to really get a bigger flavour for the type of information that people are looking for to help influence your content plans. If, for example, on a particular topic that's important to your business, you notice that the majority of the search activity is around informational-based questions, then that can help inform your content strategy and say, well, actually, we've got a lot of people who need education, who need information. So rather than just pushing out standard content, let's look at how-to series. Let's look at exploring, answering some of these key questions. And you can quite simply look at the free research tools like the Google External Keyword Tool. There's plenty of others on the market you can go to and look at the relative volumes and get an understanding of actually what sort of questions are most important. Can we start putting some bite-sized content together, content that we can put on our website, but also content that we can then share out socially because it will be useful and helpful to our audience. Okay, so hopefully we're up to URL. Okay, my Adobe's back. Amazing. So next bit on planning tools is URL shorteners. So you may already be using these, but this is if you're using tools like Hootsuite, for example, to do your social posting, it will automatically shorten links. But there are other shorteners that you can use specifically that provide tracking. So you could use shorteners like the Google one, goo.gl, there's bit.ly, owl.ly. So you enter your URL and it will automatically create a shortened version so you're using up less characters in your social post for it. You can invest in a branded URL. Larger brands with bigger budgets will do that. You don't have to. But the important thing about the shorteners is they give click tracking. So you can specifically look at links, clicks, etc. So URL shortening is great from reducing the number of characters used up on URLs, but it's also good for giving tracking visibility. Okay, so the next set of tools we'll talk about are content tools. So this is looking at not the planning side and the research side of content, but more about how do you curate, collaborate, plan out the content that you're going to use in your social media. There are quite a few tools out there. The one I've pulled out is Every Post because quite a few clients I work with recommend it highly, use it a lot, and they use it when they've got to collaborate across multiple content editors, managers. So this is for models where you have in-house teams, but also where you have a social media person who's working with an external copywriter or an external social media consultant who's helping them, where they want to have a central tool to curate, but with proper workflow and collaboration, so it's not all having to done manually. So tools like this enable you to pull in lots of different types of content. So you can pull in content from your RSS feeds, visual content from other channels like YouTube, content that you want to use and package up to put into social posts. So it's a really neat way of basically drag and dropping content that you've got to use to generate your social updates. It then gives you editorial capability, so you can customize posts. So you could, for example, pull in a YouTube video. You want to do a social media campaign around a new product video that you've uploaded to YouTube. You can pull that in, but then you can customize the post depending on the network that you want to publish to. So you could post different style of message to Twitter, then to Facebook, etc., to tie in with your editorial strategy in those channels, but also to tie in with the restrictions of the formats that you can post in those channels. And then it has scheduling capability as well. So you can schedule stuff to publish later. And then you can also set up collaboration so that you can have different levels of roles and responsibilities. Say, for example, you work with a external freelancer. You don't want them to publish to your social media, but you want them to be able to curate and create all of the posts ready for you. You can give them a specific permission and access to do that, but then they have to submit that ready for you to review, approve, and publish. So it gives you some of those core controls that we're typically used to in e-commerce CMSs. The next thing is around visual content management. So for those of you to whom visual social networks like Pinterest and Instagram are really important, then there are some custom tools for these sort of networks. These are tools that allow you to schedule updates and save time working with how these networks work in terms of content publishers. So for example, on Pinterest, you can publish images to multiple boards instead of having to individually publish the pin to each board. You can do automatic updates based on popular time, so it learns from when the people who are following you interact most with your content, and it can help you schedule based on that. And then it also helps you create new pins from existing web pages, so it will very quickly take any imagery content you've got on existing URLs, turn them into the pin format that's required for the network, and post it out. So there's some really nice tools such as Tailwind that are specific to the visual networks. Okay, so after the content curation tools, then we get on to management tools. So the purpose of these is to look at tools that help you to improve your control, visibility, and performance of social management. I pulled out dashboards first, and out of interest, if you can let me know through the comments, but does anybody currently use a tool like Hootsuite or a TweetDeck or an equivalent? Be useful just to know if any of you are using them, and also what do you use them for? So we've got, okay, so Esther and Kate both use Hootsuite, a few of you not. So Hootsuite seems to be the clear winner. So the purpose of these tools are, well, there's actually quite a few purposes for them, but you can configure activity dashboards to give you the social view that you want. So you can set up different columns. So for example, on mine, I run a weekly Twitter chat on Mondays. I have a column specifically for that because during the week people post on the hashtag, so I want to monitor it, react to it, keep actively engaged with the audience. There's other Twitter chats that I follow, therefore I want to have those on separate columns. I also set up filters for specific searches. So I use this a lot when I'm working with new clients. I will start off with searches on their brand and their key product brands to see what sort of conversations go on about them that they may or may not be aware. And then I drill down into specific keyword searches that are relevant to the business. So it's a really nice way of filtering the view to give you the information you want. And these dashboards also then give you the classic functions that Twitter, for example, would give, or Facebook, where you can then respond to, comment, retweet, like, etc. So you can very quickly respond and react to multiple people through a dashboard. You can connect multiple users as well. So from a business point of view, if you go down the business account, you can set up multiple users in the business and enable them to monitor, collaborate, and post, etc. And you can control permissions. And you can also get analytics data out of this, so you can start to see about most popular activity. So it's quite a nice way of consolidating information into one place. And generally, it's a very good time saver than if you're doing everything directly out of these social networks themselves. The one caveat I put to that is there are certain limitations to likes of Hootsuite and TweetDeck in terms of the functionality that you can take advantage of in the native networks versus that you can't. For example, on TweetDeck, you can't post an image update. If you add a URL, it won't pull through an image. You need to go into Twitter to add images directly in the Twitter client to add images. Also on polls, Twitter polls won't display properly. You won't see the poll and be able to respond to it. You have to go into the native Twitter environment to do that. So there are a couple of limitations, but from an overall management and time saving point of view, I found them incredibly effective. So the next bit is about looking at other tools that can work alongside this for scalable scheduling. You can post and schedule updates in advance through the likes of Hootsuite, but I know others who, from a volume point of view, prefer to use dedicated tools like Buffer. So again, with Buffer, you can connect multiple social networks. And the great thing here is you can actually customize publishing schedules. So in say, Hootsuite, you could set up a tweet for Twitter, and you could say, I want to post this tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. That's fine. But in Buffer, what you can do is say, okay, on Twitter, we want to publish 3 times a day, and we want to publish at these times of day. So you can create a specific schedule. You can edit at any point, and the schedule can vary by network. So you can customize your publishing frequency at network level, which can be very useful. And you also have the analytics data behind it. So Buffer's one example. There's also a tool called Agora Pulse, but the scheduling bit is only one part of it. It does a lot more. It's more of a overall social media management tool, which even does things such as competitor comparisons and monitoring. So again, as to which tool is right, it really needs you to go in and look and work out which tools interfaces you like the most, and also how you want to use the networks, and therefore whether the scheduling and publishing capabilities are right in a Hootsuite versus a Buffer. Does anybody else who's listening use Buffer out of interest? So we've got no's at the moment. As I say, it's not critical to use, but it is an interesting one to look at because of the extra publishing functionality. So this next slide on competitor comparisons, so I'm linking back into the comment about Agora Pulse. So this is one of the features Agora Pulse has, which is really nice. This is the Twitter card comparison that they do. So you can upload competitor profiles, and what it will do is it will give you basic metric comparisons in a really nice color chart, and you can therefore monitor this over time. So I set one up for Twitter, and again, this is using the free version. If you get into the paid versions, you can customize and get more granular data. But for me, the importance of this is to look at, because I'm interested in e-commerce consultants and consultancies and who are the most prevalent and followed and engaged with on social media, and understand what they do better than I do, etc., and where I can improve. So I set up against a few key people who are very prominent in natural search, and see how they compare socially. And very quickly you can see the scorecarding of how you compare in terms of followers, what the quality of your followers are like, because that's an important thing. You can have lots of followers, but actually the quality, and it's rated in terms of their influence and their network and their engagement rates, etc. So unsurprisingly, one of the leading e-commerce agencies in the UK has got higher quality followers because they're more actively engaged with their social account. But publishing wise, I can see that I'm actually getting some gains in engagement, quality, and activity. So it's a really nice way of looking quickly at which areas could I potentially improve on and focus on. The next tool to look at is If This Then That. Has anyone used If This Then That at all? And if not, I can highly recommend it. Okay, so Kate has. Out of interest, those of you who've used it, do you use the existing recipes that it offers, or do you create your own and link up your own other tools to create automation? And then I'll explain to those of you who haven't used it what that means, in case it sounds like marketing gobbledygook. Okay, so what If This Then That is? It's essentially a big aggregation tool that has integrations between lots of different marketing tools. Some purely social media, others that link and integrate well, such as MailChimp for email, which is the example I've given you. And what it allows you to do is create connectors that say, if something happens on this network, then do this on another. For the example I've given you is, because I run this Twitter chat, We have an email database that sits off the back of it where we update people every week to let them know what chat's coming up. I want to know the subscribers who are joining. When people subscribe, they give us their Twitter ID. So I've got an alert that says if we get a new subscriber to our database, then send me a direct message via Twitter and let me know, and I get their ID in it. So I get through, because I'm using TweetDeck as my dashboard, I get a direct message. It tells me I see the Twitter ID, and I can therefore tweet the person and say, oh, great, thanks for signing up. Let me know if you've got any questions. So it's a great way of automating events and actions rather than you having to manually do stuff and remember to do it. And when you're in the heat of battle of managing websites, social media, etc., having a level of automation makes a massive difference. There are a huge number of recipes, and the recipes are basically the connectors you create that says, if this happens, do that. There are a huge number in their recipe bank that you can just use and apply to your own business, and then you can set up your own and create your own rules as well. And if you want to, you can share that and publish it out to share it back to the community. It's quite a vibrant community. I think there's almost like a competitive sense of who can create the coolest and most interesting recipes for people to share. One of the most popular ones is every time a new product is uploaded, posting an image to, say, Instagram, so that you create an instant social post off of it. So very useful from an automation and for saving time. So that's the end of the core tools I wanted to talk about. And really the last bit is just to summarize that this isn't a one size fits all. And if I take 3 or 4 of my key clients, they all have a slightly different toolkit that they use depending on size and also the focus in their social media strategy. You know, some are much more focused on visual content, and therefore they use more curation and visual management tools. Others are much more focused on engaging people through a particular network like Twitter, and therefore the management tools like a Hootsuite or TweetDeck and things like Buffer are used more often. So the most important thing is define your goals and data needs for your social media. Start with that, understand what you're trying to achieve, and then match the tools back to them. Don't just start playing around with tools, because believe me, you will lose hours, days of your life. Or maybe you want to, and if so, then go ahead. But from a productivity point of view, just launching into looking at a tool without a clear definition of the goals and the needs from it will waste you a lot of time and effort. The next thing is to then measure performance when you're using a tool. So if you're not quite sure whether you're going to get the value from it, never launch off on the paid version. Start with the free version, start to use it and look at how well it's helping you achieve your goals. Are there any gaps? Are there any issues? If there are gaps, then look at the paid version and say to yourself, if we were to invest in the paid, would that address the gaps that we're finding? Therefore, is there value? And would that give us the right solution for the business? But also understand limitations. As I said before, not all tools can do everything. So, for example, in TweetDeck, there's a limitation. I can't publish and take part in the polls so effectively. I have to go back to the Twitter native client to do it. I understand that as a limitation. It doesn't stop me using TweetDeck. I still find it incredibly useful, but I have accepted that I need to do something different if I want to make polls work. And then the last point is always test, learn, and improve. You know, the toolkits that are available keep changing. New vendors come on the market. Existing tools get upgraded. Older tools get downgraded or retired. So you've always got to stay on top, test and learn and improve. And if something's not working, switch to another tool. And if it is working, then look at other ways that you can use deeper, richer functionality within it. So that's the key information for today. I kept this deliberately short and sweet, as it's a Friday after all. So thank you for those of you who've stayed awake and listened. And I guess if there's any specific questions you've got, please use the chat zone. But also, if there's anything you can share with other people about tools you've used that you like, that other people can look at, that'd be wonderful too.